matches, and I was like, man, he actually looked pretty darn good in those games. Like, he looked very confident, very, comfortable, and just way better than I thought he was going to be. So, yeah, excited to see more from him today, see if he can bring it to Clem and maybe cause an upset. Obviously, that's perhaps a big ask, but we'll see if it's possible. We're going to start off in the top right corner, though, with the blue Terran from Team Liquid. Clem.
And down on the bottom left-hand side of the map, we have our red Protoss player. He is Hellraiser. And I'm so glad you also brought up the matches that Hellraiser played. And because I did catch the Hellraiser versus Mana series. And I feel like, yeah, both Mana and Hellraiser are actually looking pretty sick. And that's part of the reason why it was like a 1-2 series score. But what's kind of interesting also is that Hellraiser, also his second match was versus Raynor. And it's really tough to ever look very good versus Raynor, right? That's like the next level up. So in a weird way, I do kind of look at this as like the potential semi-calibration match. Because if Hellraiser can even like take a map or something over here, I actually think that Hellraiser will be looking, in my mind, to be in pretty good form. Because Clem is a very difficult person to have your calibration match basically against. But there's a wide range between beating Mana and like losing to Raynor, I feel like.
Yes, I mean, Raynor is just a beast, right? And if you have Raynor, you're probably going to lose, right? Like, whoever got Raynor round 1 probably was like, yeah, probably going to lose this as well. Raynor, we expect to go 3-0 because Raynor is the kind of player we don't expect to be touched until not even the playoffs, but like top 4 playoffs, right? That's when we expect Raynor to really maybe see some resistance, see some trouble. Because he has won this event before. He's constantly in the finals of this tournament. Raynor is always just at that sort of level. And, I mean, honestly, a lot of the time so is Clem, especially in DreamHack Online. And yeah, maybe Clem's had some blips in group stages before, but he is the player we expect to then make it out of the group and go very deep into the playoffs. Even if he has to go through, through the lower bracket or something, he will make that run. And he has done before, and I expect him to do so again. So, yeah, these guys are just rough to play against. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, actually, when you put it that way, you're absolutely right. I think Clem may actually be the most winningest online European regional player for like since we moved to DreamHack SC2 Masters and now ESL Masters and stuff. Clem is an absolute beast in the European region. So it is a little bit unfortunate just being the poor sap Hellraiser having to play against both Raynor and Clem. It's like, man, how much more unlucky can you get with your like group seedings?
It's like he has won it 5 times, the E5L champ, right? Like, he is, it is ridiculous just how much he's winning. Because if you told me Cyril have run it 5 times, I'm like, well, duh. Like, Cyril always wins everything. But, Europe is where Clem wins. And Cyril has not even gotten close to the amount of wins that Clem has in Europe because he just keeps getting knocked down by the kids. If we can call them kids anymore, Raynor and Clem. The kids of old at this point. So, yeah. Makes Europe a very fun region in that regard just because while we know Clem's really good and we expect him to do well, he's almost unprecedentedly good in these online events specifically.
100%. Now we do actually have the openings sort of lining on up. The Reaper did pop in over there to the natural and actually did see the Stargate. Not only that, it also saw what was being produced out of the Stargate because you can see a little hover of it. So he knows that this Phoenix is probably going to be real. The Cyclone could try and get a little lock on onto it, but doesn't seem like he's going to have the opportunity to. But both these players actually now have a pretty decent idea of what they're going to be up against and what their opponents are kind of actually going for. See that it's not going to be like a Twilight Council opening or something.
Yep, obviously the Phoenix revealing itself. It is nice nowadays players are actually more frequently scouting with the Phoenix because there was a while where you would always save the Phoenix back at home to jump on the Widowmine drop and then you're like, wait, what? You have loads of Marines and Stim way faster than usual? Oh, and I've got Phoenix and 1 Stalker or something. It's like, oh, that's not good. But obviously nowadays, seeing a faster second rack, you should always make an Immortal, I would say, out of this robe. We've already got a battery high ground. An Immortal just really adds to the safety of this build, and you don't have to go for it immediately. Observe it first, I think, is also fine. Get some more info. But sooner rather than later, I'd like to see an Immortal added on just to kind of act as that stepping stone tech into the Colossus afterwards.
Yeah, I'm kind of chuckling at Hellraiser's natural wall in there. It's like one of the highest tech wall-ins I've seen of a Stargate and a Robo, both just acting as like the foremost, frontmost parts of his base. I totally get it. The robotic facility, oftentimes we see a lot of players go for those very, very far forward just because get the reinforcements out as fast as possible. It's just funny to also see the Stargate there. It's just like, this is literally what's leading the charge there for Hellraiser.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking, man, if this turns into a game where there's a siege out the front, Hellraiser's going to have a bad time. And because, you know, if he's going to play Phoenix Colossus, those are both the structures he needs to stay alive as well. So if there is a push from Clem with the siege tank lineup, I really, really hope for Hellraiser's sake that he has a good way to shut it down. And actually, in this case, there's no tanks on the way. We're heading straight to mines from Clem, but yeah, that is definitely a danger in some scenarios. I feel like, you know, a lot of the time, Hellraiser might get punished for this kind of a wall, but yeah, maybe not this game.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but it is a good call out to just mention that we are going to be heading into that kind of Phoenix Colossus style that a lot of pro players do tend to be favoring these days. Now, a lot of Terran players have really enjoyed doing these kind of little bio move outs and stuff, and like you were actually even just pointing out before, kind of skipping a lot of the siege tanks, even sometimes foregoing Widow Mines for the earlier parts and just putting on a bit of early bio pressure. And I'm always fascinated to see how different like pros players are handling this, how they're microing this, where they're deciding to engage with this. And I think all of that is going to matter a lot, because it is easy to kind of fall prey to these kind of attacks and take way more damage than you're supposed to.
Oh, absolutely. Is our Phoenix going to be overhead here? Actually going to be ready to jump on this. The one Colossus is obviously a bit vulnerable, but this was not a Raven opening from Clem because this was not a tech-heavy opening. It was the double rack. So no Raven means no Matrix, and in general, I would say that means that Hellraiser is just nice and safe. It is scary to jump on that army as Clem, and for now he's going to get pushed back. It was very safe play from Hellraiser, right? Third base starts now. That's after Clem's base starts on location. So not only is it kind of very safe from Hellraiser to try and kind of just be like, okay, like I don't want to die. I don't want Clem to hit me hard with his timing. But Clem's also playing into what Hellraiser is doing. The third on location, for example, is the exact kind of thing that can do a lot. His Widow Mine is going to get lifted, so will the SCV. There's one behind the CC that gets a shot off, and that's just going to delay it a little bit. So nice from Hellraiser. He's actually going to find these two Widow Mines as well. That's now 4 mines already going down. That's a lot of the splash damage being killed off here.
Yeah, that is a great couple of finds there for Hellraiser. And I want to mention that Hellraiser is doing what I think a lot of pros players don't really do, which is he didn't stop at 5 Phoenix. He didn't stop at 7 Phoenix. He didn't stop at 8 Phoenix. He didn't stop at 9 Phoenix. He's going for a 10th Phoenix. And God forbid, Wardy, we could even see an 11th. Like, I don't even know what's happening. What is, do you think, the stopping point for Phoenix production with this? Because this is more Phoenix than I feel like I usually see.
It's just different ways to play it, right? Some players like to play like 6 to 8 Phoenix and sort of just use that as the baseline defense to the Colossi. I mean, some players go double Stargate to keep cranking the Phoenix out. I know Showtime's actually a pretty big fan of that, right? Just as many Phoenix as you can get. In general, honestly, I think initially the more Phoenix the better until Ghosts are out. Because once Ghosts are out, Phoenix really get nullified in their effectiveness, because if you get hit by EMPs, not only do you melt way faster because your shields are gone, but you use the ability to lift stuff up, right? And a lot of the time, what's amazing about Phoenix Colossus is your chase potential, because if the Terran army tries to run away, it just gets chased down by Phoenix, lifted up, and if there's enough Phoenix to lift everything, you're going to get a lot of free kills, right? So it really depends. I think Hellraiser is clearly on a style where he wants to play a lot of Phoenix, and the only downside to that is that his follow-up is going to be much slower. Like, he's going to be on Phoenix Colossus for a lot longer, whereas, and he's even going to build a 4th Colossus, so you can really see him, you know, doubling down on this plan. Whereas a lot of players would now already be onto some Disruptor production, maybe thinking about a Templar Archives, and even just further ground upgrades where he's really, you know, focused on the +1 air weapons. +2 took a while to start on the ground. It only just got going now. So just a different way of playing this Phoenix Colossus. And I think it also comes into just how late he took the 3rd base as well.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how things play out with all of that, given that we do see Clem already starting some of those ghosts now. 3 on the way. It's still going to be a little while before the ghosts are out. They're actually joined with the army. They have enough energy to throw out the EMPs and stuff on those Phoenix and everything. But that first fight, that it feels like these players, it's not that they've been playing super passive. I feel like both of them have been active and out on the map and everything. But in reality, there's been very few actual trades. Both these players have lost under 1,000 resources total. But they're just teasing at the fights. They haven't actually engaged with each other. That first engagement, oh, that's going to be such a scary engagement, I feel like, for both sides.
I'm a little bit terrified for Hellraiser, honestly, as right now, especially as Phoenix are not where they need to be, so Clem realizes that he's going to go forward. I honestly feel like he could have let the Vikings continue to chase a little bit longer there. He's got the Widow Mines too, which I was going to say, if they go off on the Phoenix, then brilliant. They hit the Zealots, which isn't a bad thing to hit either. Clearing out that front line has some value to it, and just using the range on these Vikings to pot shots off on the Phoenix and clip through one of them already. I love what Clem's doing, and he's put Hellraiser in a weird place, because Hellraiser kind of needs to come down here and defend, because you don't want to give up the 4th base, but I think Clem's also recognizing that he just maybe is able to come through and fight this army. Great EMP into Snipe, and he just gets rid of 1 Colossus already and just working his way through this. It's looking pretty good for Clem, who is yet to drop a stim on his army, right? He's not fully committed in still, and I mean, just showing us, I mean, he's just opened up like a 50 supply lead in this game, basically. Like, Clem is really rocking this situation.
Yeah, and I think you're doing such a great job of pointing out the Vikings being able to snipe off all these Colossus, being able to take out some of the Phoenix. It was just way too much. And Clem, just through really, really solid engagements there, was able to take such a massive victory in the trades. I knew that like once the Ghost got involved, that could become a little bit one-sided. That was way more one-sided than I thought it was going to be.
I think when you make this many Phoenix, you need to put them to use. Get them across the map, right? Start killing things, right? Like, kill some SCVs, slow Clem down in some way. It's all well and good being extremely safe on your army, but being extremely safe on your army when it's like, you know, a lot of it is just the Phoenix, like, that army is missing a little bit of something, and then the Phoenix weren't there initially, so the Clem gets a bit of a chase, he puts some damage out, and just being able to control the Vikings like that too, right? Getting a lot of free kills initially, and it actually never felt like Hellraiser's army was going to be scary because, I mean, you saw what happened. It just melted when a fight broke out, and I think that's one of the downsides of, you know, going mass Phoenix. You need to do something with them, and if you don't, kind of end up like this.
Yeah, it makes sense. Actually, almost like the counter, usually you see the Phoenix finding little pickoffs here or there, sniping some medevacs off, picking up a couple of units, even as the armies are maneuvering around. It almost felt like the opposite, whereas like it wasn't ever Hellraiser finding these little pickoffs. It was like the Vikings for Clem, constantly just finding like 1 or 2 Phoenix here or there, finding a little pick off on maybe some stray unit that was meandering around for Hellraiser. Clem was actually finding a lot more damage rather than the actual Phoenix. So I really feel like that style did not work out so well. Does Hellraiser try something similar again in game number 2? I do wonder.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. Usually when you play Phoenix Colossus, it's almost like your go-to safety build. I almost feel like after that, as Hellraiser, you sort of look at it and say, okay, you know what? 2 base all in time. Like, let's just go really wild. Let's try and kill him. Yeah, so just anything, right? That just... Because obviously sitting back and trying to play your safe game didn't work at all, so... Yeah, we'll see what adjustments are made. But, top left-hand side is going to be Hellraiser down a game, and yeah, it really needs to find a whole new way of playing if, you know, it's going to look anything like that previous map.
Yeah, and down here in the bottom right, a man who does not need to really change up a whole lot of anything. He's looking great. TL's Clem. Yeah, well, you know, given that, again, somewhat unexpected for a lot of people, but as you said, it kind of had to happen given Clem had to face off against MaxPax. One of the 2 players is going to be an unexpected 1-1 situation. I'm feeling really good about Clem, and despite being 1-1, looking really good to be in form right now after that first game.
Yeah, no, I'm... Clem came into this meaning business. He knows this is a match he can't lose, right? It's not like he can't lose it, but I mean, you know, you lose it.
He's a favorite. He's a pretty good favorite.
Exactly. Yeah. It'd be silly to throw this one away because this is not an easy group, and whoever you play in like the 2-2 match potentially is always going to be tough, even for Clem, right? There's, you know, it's just a best of 3 at that point. So this is not one you want to lose. You don't want to be in a situation where you must win to get in. You want to be in a situation where he's got a couple of opportunities, right? And realistically, Clem winning this should be a favorite going in the next match as well. So yeah, he came into this knowing that, prepared, and he really just looked solid, right? Nothing risky. Didn't try and dive on the Colossus at first. Was happy to play the macro game and just saying, hey, look, I'm the stronger, more comfortable player. The longer this game goes, the better my macro shines, the more I can do here, the more comfortable I am taking the more complicated engagements. And he did exactly that just to win that first game, right? It was kind of simple in what he did, but it requires a lot of technical skill to be able to pull it off the way he did.
Oh, absolutely. Really, really impressive play there. And it's going to be, I feel like the onus is a bit on Hellraiser to shake things up and to find some way of doing something else to shift things around from that first game. And hey, we already do see a Twilight Council, so Hellraiser is going to change things up. I don't mind that at all, especially on Gresman going for like a little bit of the Blink Stalker play. I think can be pretty strong here. So it's going to come down a little bit to how many gateways does he decide to make, how hard he's committing. Is this going to be like all in or transitionary Blink Stalkers? And also just how well do you execute it?
Grabs a probe as well on the low ground, but yeah, I'm absolutely with you. Just switch it up. Definitely, I would like to see the more aggressive style. I think you got to just start trying to catch Clem early, maybe catch him being a bit greedy, especially in, you know, what he did last game and what he's doing again here. This faster second barracks means you're not as heavy on factory production. The factory's being used as a little bit of an add-on builder right now, and likely potentially becomes an add-on builder for the starport down the line as well. We will build a Cyclone here, but that's not a siege tank, and if you completely skip tanks like we did last time, there's absolutely opportunity with the Blink Stalkers. So I wouldn't mind Hellraiser doubling it down just based on what Clem did last time and just sort of saying, well, hey, if he's so comfortable to do that against me game 1 and it worked so well, maybe he'll just do it again, and maybe I can take advantage. So plop down 2 more gates and get aggressive. I'd like it.
Yeah, I mean, this is around the time that you really need to start thinking about adding on those extra gates if you're planning to. Right now, he's just sitting on the 2 gates, which is truly the lightest form of Blink Stalker opening that you can do. This is like the style where you say, I'm going to have some Blink Stalkers. They can check the front and just see what you have. But really, I'm saving most of my resources to get up a faster third base, to get up additional tech and everything. And given that he still hasn't thrown them down, I do feel like he was just trying to play this out for like the pure macro style Blink Stalker.
Which is obviously fine, you know, just because I wanted to see him get all aggressive and dirty doesn't mean it was necessarily the right call. I mean, this is obviously a very viable macro-based build. I am just worried that, you know, okay, maybe this isn't as, you know, passive as the last game was. Maybe Clem is not just going to get to do what he wishes, but it is taken into that stage of the game where I do like it for Clem anyways. So I guess, like we'll see, like we say, we'll see what Hellraiser has stored up. See what kind of power he can bring. Loses a probe here. This Reaper just getting a catch, getting a confirmation of the third base as well. It's just really good info off the Reaper. Keeping it alive earlier allows this rescout, and that's obviously really nice as well. So nice little catch there. And otherwise, the Observer just coming across the map as Hellraiser would love to just double confirm what he's actually playing against. It is scary though, because he's not even got Stalkers on the map. You'd expect the Stalkers to be on the other side to at least chip away at a bio army that starts moving over. Like, Hellraiser is blind, right? Like, he has no idea what this build is until now he sees Cyclone and Bio. If this was a 3-Rex and he got stimmed into, like, you know, 20 seconds ago, he's dead. like he has nothing, no battery or anything. So he's taking a lot of risks here, playing kind of greedy. And he's getting away with it, so that's the good news. But, yeah, this is the sort of thing which oftentimes can be punished, so it's definitely not a consistent way to play.
Yeah, I think that kind of stuff is a little bit worrying to me, because there shouldn't really be... unless you miscontrol, there shouldn't really be a cost associated with sending your stalkers across the map with a 2-gate Blink Stalker play, right? Like, the point of these kind of Blink Stalker plays is to get a little bit of map control and to poke at the front and see what's going on. Unless you really just feel like there's about to be a drop or something that you're going to need the stalkers back at home to defend with. But it is sort of interesting. He is going to eventually, like you said, get into this kind of mid-game. He has double upgrades and stuff coming on up. He's getting his big gateway flood to complement the third base economy and stuff paying on off. But yeah, not even really poking all that much. I guess there's a siege tank there, but I don't even think he's really using like the observer to poke super far into the main base. Doesn't really want a chance losing it or anything. So just staying very much so on the outskirts of everything, getting up his own kind of transition stuff back at home, and I guess playing this out for the super late game.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much just double forge. Obviously, Clem getting his own third CC up. We'll see what Clem's push does, right? Because this is where these Stalkers do, you know, come into play. They're meant to shave off some units. They get him Marauder at the start. You want to slow down this advance, especially when you're playing double forge. The thing is, you know, it's also charge lots, and I don't think Clem would see too much success if he got to the other side. He just blew up 10 probes, though, with the Widow Mine, so that's very nice coming down the left side. That's not a good start, but of course, that doesn't affect the army that's out right now. I'm still not immediately loving it for Clem if he runs straight into all these Zealots, assuming there's going to be another warp in his Zealots, and yeah, there's a bunch in the natural coming over, too, so I think Clem should turn around. He's going to decide that same thing, just take the third base, defend. The army of Hellraiser gets worse over time here because it's just gateway units, and especially if you get up to Ghost and you take the shields off the Zealots, this army just melts in general, so that is absolutely something that we kind of want to see here from Clem. Just sit back, get up to, you know, more mines and ghosts, and then Hellraiser is going to be forced to tech up himself and play away from the kind of power of those 2-2 upgrades.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. The forges are really the big advantage here for Hellraiser, because economy certainly isn't as much the advantage anymore after taking all those losses to the Widow Mines, which are still even alive. But is there going to be like that big window then that you want to see Hellraiser trying to get aggressive with on 2-2? Or do you think it's at this point probably just wait it out until you actually have your robotics bay and getting up your actual forms of splash damage tech out?
I think if Clem's on the map, you know, not sieged up, mine's not burrowed, I think there's always opportunity for a good fight. You have to do it while not taking damage to this Widow Mine drop, for example, though, as these 2 mines do drop in. There's also a bit of a fight starting to break out. Mine's going to do a lot because Clem is keeping Hellraiser busy with this fight. I don't mind the fact that Hellraiser kind of runs into it, but there are good mine shots. There's a tank that's going to provide some splash as well, and the force field's going to kind of choke the Zealots up more than stop the bio. Clem has one mine that never actually got burrowed, so yeah, interesting few moments. Yeah, this just wasn't it for Hellraiser, though. It just needed to be cleaner. It needed to be no damage taken at home, and now he's in a little bit of a spot of bother again.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much losing all of his Zealots there. I mean, actually, sorry, not pretty much. He did lose all of his Zealots there in those exchanges. And I mean, that was actually a large chunk of his army as well. Hellraiser, yes, sometimes the Protoss player can be down a bit in supply and stuff, but usually that's when you also have a lot of these splash damage units and stuff out. It's not like when you're just on a double forge upgraded gateway army with a single Colossus on its way out. I feel like I really like Clem's army a lot more right now. And given the fact that he's going to be able to be in this like tied up upgrade situation, well, for a few more seconds until 2-2 finishes on up, I do wonder if Hellraiser is going to be able to feel confident about taking a fight right now.
One Colossus isn't super scary, I want to say. We're going to have our tank getting set up as well, just take a bit of position. Clem, it's really about the mines, because the mines can do so much to work away at Hellraiser's army before the fight even really begins, so these mines really make or break this fight for Clem. You know, I can see Hellraiser, if he just surged onto the bio, would probably have a fantastic time. But again, the mines are going to stop him from doing just that. He's going to come down the ramp, though, so he is going to commit. The Widow mines will clean out the first few Zealots very easily. We even have a couple mines in the back still. They just fired. Nothing too exciting in the end. Clem will just kite away. This is fine for Clem, though. He gets a lot of value, and okay, he loses the mine count and everything, but he keeps a lot of bio alive. A lot of his medevacs will be out of here alive as well. And these are units which he can then rejoin with reinforcements and probably just keep up the pressure. He's up 40 army supply. And Hellraiser, I think we're going too far forward. As Clem reinforces, if he can just spread and jump on this army, there's no Zealots to keep it back. There's nothing to kind of act as a buffer. I don't like how aggressive we're being there as Hellraiser coming all the way across this side.
Yeah, that part I think even he's starting to reconsider and does decide to back on off. But one thing I do have to commend Hellraiser on is he is going for a very fast fifth base. I'm actually quite surprised. Even the location of it is a little bit funny, and I think even Clem was not necessarily expecting that base location, because he sends the Widow mine drop straight over the Nexus, even scans ahead over to the fourth base. He's going to be able to burrow. It doesn't seem like Hellraiser noticed the Widow mine drop going over the Nexus. Loses 7 more workers. Not the end of the world this late on into the game, but even that's going to be quite annoying for him, because he is trying to bank off of the fact that he has a really great economy right now and good upgrades. Slowing any of that down is going to be quite annoying for him.
And that's exactly what Clem's doing, right? Just hitting the economy a few different times with mines and just slowing Hellraiser from really taking full advantage of the powerful upgrade timing he set up for himself. You know, earlier on when he killed the first 10 pros with the Widow mine drop, it was also when Hellraiser was just hitting to all of his gates. He would have loved to just spam every gate full of Zealots and just go. And he couldn't, because he just lost a good chunk of economy that would have provided the minerals necessary to do that. So, yeah, it's definitely been one of the issues, and Clem going to move forward now. He's maxed out, and with all the tech, honestly, I feel he needs. He might not have a lot of Vikings, but with a couple of good EMPs, you don't need a lot of Vikings. And this is also a fairly low stalk count from Hellraiser too, so a few Vikings can basically just go a long way. He's already going to start killing off this fifth base. Hellraiser doesn't even try and contest it, and that should be a little bit of a precedent of what's to come. Hellraiser clearly feeling like he still needs more before this larger fight happens.
Yeah, it's a tough spot, because again, that was the advantage that Hellraiser was garnering for himself. He had done that push back across the map, and even though it was costly for him to defend, he managed to get up a fifth base or start up a fifth base during all of that. But Clem just getting a free snipe off on that, and also getting a bit of that worker damage, kind of evening things up. It feels like a lot of Hellraiser's advantages have been disappearing. The one thing he still has going for him is he does still have great upgrades. 2-2 is finishing up here for Clem, but Hellraiser on the verge of getting 3-3 himself.
Yes, he is. The +3 attack upgrade still coming through there, and just seeing our bio setting up to fight a few Vikings going forward. Colossi staying back and back and forth just here in general. As we move up, we're going to take down the Nexus, and that's going to be a kill, not even a cancel. And again, here's the Vikings. Doesn't take a lot of them to chip through those Colossi, especially with an EMP on them. However, I'm getting chased back, just not getting through the Zealots easily. Doesn't quite get the Colossus. Now the Viking count a little bit lower, and Hellraiser actually will chase Clem back for a while.
Yeah, Zealot's going to be able to act as a massive buffer. There's still the Colossus in the back lines. They aren't getting the damage done right now because they're still trying to close the distance against the stim bio, but hey, Hellraiser, in a sense, is getting a lot of free chip damage just in exchange for some of the Zealots. Losing the Disruptor is a bit painful there. But I mean, army value-wise, I have to say, Hellraiser is doing pretty gosh darn well. And you'll see with the reinforcing warp in, maybe there's something he can get done over here. He does have to be careful not to overcommit, but I think has an army that's pretty gosh darn scary for Clem to deal with right now.
Yeah, it's those Colossi in the back. Clem can't reach them comfortably, right? And that's the one thing I think right now could be a big issue. However, we, again, don't really have the buffer. And when I say buffer, I mean the Zealots, right? The units that are going to really stand there and tank and stop the Bio Army from kind of feeling good moving forward. And that means that every unit that gets shot at right now, especially by Marauders, are taking a lot of damage. The Stalkers are taking a lot of hits. The Colossi will be taking hits too. The Vikings getting through them. The little SCV pull, they're going to lose a chunk of workers as Clem, but it hasn't given him enough of a lead in the battle. There's a lot of Zealots not joining the fray. The Vikings now have to land. Clem trying to hold on here. Widowmine actually gets a pretty good connection in the midst of all of this. And it feels like Clem is just about holding on with enough. There's just nothing scary in Hellraiser's force anymore. One Disruptor, to me, just ain't going to do it. That's not going to scare Clem off. He might lose this base, but there's a replacement nearby. There's the one Disruptor shot, and that's the only thing Hellraiser really had to dictate how this fight was going to continue.
Yeah, I mean, nice snipe off on the orbital commit. I'm so confused right now because, Wardy, I'm looking at this army and I'm trying to figure out, how does Clem have 88 army supply? Is it just medevacs? And
It's mines.
Yeah, widow mines. So a lot of widow mines.
He has mines set up everywhere to kind of deal with run-bys, kind of catch an army. I mean, these two were just left behind from before, and those mines are just not joining the army. That's like 20 army supply in its own. And then you consider that, plus there's a lot of medevacs too. Yeah, the ground army itself ain't that large, so... yeah, it really is just a mine situation. As that Disruptor shot missed, those mines are going to have to line up another, and this time we do clean them out. Clem now takes this is an opportunity to move up top. A few probes long distance mining here, so Clem can clear out a few of those. And as he heads toward 3-3 upgrades, we're finally going to see Clem even the upgrades out. That's something he's not been able to do throughout this game because, well, Hellraiser opened double forge, and he didn't let off the Corona boost on those forges the entire time.
Yeah, that is definitely going to be a big surge in terms of the army value for Clem. Just having those 3-3 upgrades finally finished on up. In the meanwhile, we do finally have a couple of High Templars being warped in for Hellraisers, who's kind of rounding out his composition. But, I mean, he's adding on the Archons against an army that actually has quite a few ghosts. A lot of the ghosts have been staying alive during these exchanges. Those EMPs are going to be absolutely brutal. Archons being added in as well. Clem getting into a bit of a dangerous position here over here. He's going to have to try and kite back around the corner and will be able to get up to the safety of some of those reinforcements. Some of the Widow Mines also arriving over here. But if Hellraiser can hold this ground for a little bit longer, use those disruptors, build up that Colossus count, maybe he can make something happen. But even Clem, he's getting up those Vikings. He's getting up more of those Liberators that should be joining the fight soon.
One interesting choice of EMP, by the way. He EMP'd the Stalkers earlier, leaving the Zealots. And I was like, well, the Zealots are your biggest threat, but I guess he's kind of banking on the Zealots running into mines anyway, and a lot of mines at that. So, yeah, and the Vikings get rid of this Colossus, and it's really just Disruptors and a prayer, right? So now Clem is also adding on Liberators, which is going to be the one thing he's been missing, some kind of zone control in this game, right? And as Hellraiser jumps on this army here, it doesn't look that terrifying. Clem kites away. Maybe it would be nice to get the Vikings and the Colossus again. We're actually going to get the Widow Mines nearly getting the Prism. I thought that was a goner, but no, I'm just going to die to the Vikings instead.
Yeah, bit unfortunate. Those prisms could be so useful and even helping keep the Colossus alive for a little bit longer. Disruptors firing their shots, but that's all of the shots fired, and I think Clem knows it. He tries to target fire down. One of the Disruptors does manage to get it as well. Colossus is going to get annihilated in the air. Liberators set on up, and one of them is getting target fire down by some of the Stalkers, but everything else is just getting absolutely annihilated. We do end up seeing Clem finally having to give up a bit of ground, but I think the supply really does tell the tale. With all the reinforcements coming forward for Clem, he is severely overpowering his opponents.
You know, just a thing very impressive. 3-3 kicks in, that's obviously somewhat a factor, but I think also just the fact that throughout this game and series, or throughout this game, Clem has been kind of chipping away at that Protoss tech, and the more he's chipped away at that Protoss tech,